So my name is Holland Lentz. I'm the local program manager for Jill's House Rocky Top here in Nashville. Thank you guys so much for spending time with us tonight. I'm just going to go through our program and what we have to offer here in Nashville. Scott is also on, and he's going to kind of monitor the chat. So if you guys have any questions at the end, we'll go through those. Also, you guys can contact me at my email and number. I believe that Scott provided that beforehand, but it will also be at the end. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about Jill's House and how we got started. So this is Jill. So she is kind of our mission. She is the individual in the middle, and she has a seizure condition called Dravet syndrome, which is it's very uncommon. And so these are her parents, Lon and Brenda Solomon. Lon was the main pastor at McLean Bible Church located in Vienna, Virginia for a very long time. And so they have 4 children. Jill is their youngest, and they really found the gift of respite when a friend of theirs offered to stay the night with Jill when she was an infant. And the idea of having one night alone changed their lives. And so out of that story, they created Jill's House as a place for respite for families affected by individuals with special needs. And so Jill is our heart and soul behind Jill's House. And one thing that really stands out to me is that Jill never even stayed at Jill's house. She's still living. She's 29 years old, but she was too old and out of our programs. And so when Jill's House was officially formed, and so she never stayed with us, which just shows how much the Solomons really care and understand the need of respite, knowing that they created an incredible organization, knowing that their own daughter would never stay there. So this is another picture of Jill. And like I said, she is really our heart and soul behind Jill's House. So this location, I'm just going to kind of talk about our different branches. So sometimes it's hard to a little bit explain. This is our physical location, which is located in the Metro DC area in Vienna, Virginia. And so this location, we have a physical house in Virginia. And so individuals, children ages 6 to 17 with intellectual disabilities will come and stay at our house. So that's the name, Jill's House, in DC area. And so we have many programs there, but we also have a national program, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we were started in 2010 with our physical location. It's right next to McLean Bible Church, like I said, located in Vienna, Virginia. And our goal is to provide short-term overnight respite care. So we have a couple different programs at our physical location. I won't go into detail with that since that's not here, but if you're interested, feel free to reach out at the end or check out our website. But like I said, we support kids who are 6 to 17 with intellectual disabilities. And so after we formed our home, there's 45 beds here. It's a state-of-the-art facility. Kids receive 24 to 48 hour stays with us. But after we created this beautiful house, we knew we couldn't replicate the house all over America, even though we wanted to. So we decided to branch out and try our national programs. So that's where Jill's House Rocky Top was born. And so currently we have 4 locations where we rent out local campsites and we do our weekend adventures. So I'll get into more of what that looks like in a minute, but these are our current 4 locations. We have one in Virginia, we have one in Chicago, Wisconsin area, we have one in Seattle, in Washington, and then we have ours here in Nashville. They each have different staff members, different employees, and we just work on a national team all together. And so we were started here in Tennessee in 2018, but we've had national programs in different locations since 2012. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our mission, which I've kind of touched on before. But this is what we do. So we long to empower families of children with intellectual disabilities by providing short-term breaks or short breaks from caregiving. We want to give kids an unforgettable overnight experience they can't get anywhere else. And we're also a Christian nonprofit, so we want to reflect the love of Jesus Christ through unconditional and compassionate service. We love our kids so much, and we really long to provide a normal camp experience. I know that I loved growing up and going to camp, and so we really want to also provide that for all of our kids. We know that your kids are working so hard at school and at therapies and all the things in between, and so we love camp. We love having fun at camp. We love providing a space where kids can just be kids. And like I said, our main goal is to provide parents with respite additionally. We know that everyone needs rest. Like I said, our kids need rest, but y'all need rest too. And so that's really where our overnight care, that's why we chose overnight care. Because we know how incredible a good night of sleep can be for you and how restful and rejuvenating that can be. So we want to give you a break. We want to give your kids a break, and we just want to have fun with them. So this slide is a little bit about respite. So we want families to go from feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and isolated to experiencing the joy of rest, renewal, and relationships. And like I mentioned just a minute ago, Jill's House is a place to be a kid. So we will provide kids with adventure, whether that's staying in a cabin overnight for the first time, whether that's riding a horse, doing a zip line, any of those activities. We also want to provide friendship and understanding among kids who also understand. We love when our campers come out over and over and over again, and they become really good friends either with each other or with their buddies or with our staff. We're so grateful for such incredible kids. We want to provide accessible activities. So whether that is a horse ride for someone who's in a wheelchair, or whether that is our accessible zip line, we want to make sure everything is accessible for everyone. We provide that overnight stay. I'll talk a little bit about what our program looks like in a minute. Expert care, we have a trained nurse, and we also have what we call client care specialists who come out for the weekend to make sure that your children are in the best care. And we also love the idea of community meals. That's a little bit harder during COVID currently, but we love eating with one another and spending time around the campfire, whether that's with s'mores or just enjoying a meal at camp together. So I'm going to show you guys a video of our weekend programs. Just to let everyone know, this location is our Virginia location, so it looks a little bit different than our Rocky Top location, but this is just our weekend adventures. I believe the sound is going to work. If not, all of it is subtitled, so you'll still be able to read it and see it. Great. So that is a little bit of what our programs look like. If you joined us late, I just wanted to let you guys know if you guys have any questions throughout, feel free to drop it in the chat. And at the end, we'll go through any, or you can follow up with me at the end. I'm going to turn off this next video that started. And then we'll get back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is more about just specifics about our Rocky Top Weekend Adventure program. So that's the one here in Nashville. So we partner with a camp in the area. The camp we partner with is Camp Widgewagon. It's the YMCA camp. It's located on Percy Priest Lake near Antioch. It's right outside of Nashville. And so we do all of our lodging there. We do drop off and pick up there. You saw kids in a bus there, but we do everything at Camp Widgewagon, so kids aren't bused anywhere. And we stay in their cabins, we eat their meals, and we do all the activities there. And we bring in our own staff. So here's a little bit of a weekend adventure snapshot. So kids get dropped off on Friday. Usually drop off is anywhere between 4 and 6. Kids have a great time at camp, so they'll stay Friday night and Saturday night. Parents get rest, and then everyone goes home around 12:30 to 1:30 on Sunday. So since August 2020, this is a little bit of our COVID update. We've been running an adaptive camp program. So we've just been doing a day camp because we haven't been able to have overnight camp. We're looking forward to the day that we can and hoping for fall for that. But we've been doing those on select Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's been a great way for a lot of families to jump in with our programming if they're not ready to commit to overnight. So it's been great to have some kids jump in, and hopefully they'll be ready to do overnight when we're ready. So that's what we've been doing during COVID. We have a whole list of COVID protocol if you have more specific questions about that as well. But we are happy and grateful that we've been able to continue to run programming since August. So this is a little bit of the setup for the weekend. So we rely heavily on volunteers. We're very grateful for the incredible volunteers that we have. So campers will come out, and each camper will be one-to-one with a volunteer buddy. And then we also have what we call client care specialists. These are paid individuals who have had training with us, and they are present to help out with any activity of daily living. So they're the ones that will be helping kids in the bathroom, getting ready, showering, anyone who needs help with feeding or eating, transferring if your child happens to be in a wheelchair, behavior management, and more. So these individuals are present during the day. And then we also have a whole set of staff that stays up overnight in the cabins. So they sleep during the day, they're our overnight staff, and they'll be present in the cabins for the kids overnight. And they'll be awake the whole time. And then we also have our nurses who come out. So we have one nurse a weekend, and they will administer all meds and help keep all of our kids safe. So that's kind of how our program lays out. So once again, kids are buddied one-to-one with a volunteer. Then there's CCS, client care specialists, who will take care of any of the needs of the child. Volunteers are never alone with children. Our staff are the only ones who can be alone. And then, like I said, nurses, who are the ones who are going to be there for all the safety protocol and then administering any meds. Here are some activities that we offer. So we love s'mores, we love archery, hiking, hay rides, low ropes courses. There's lots of others, and depending on the weekend, it depends on what we do, but there's lots, and the kids come ready to go for sure. These are from our camp, from Nashville. So here are some of our favorite activities. We do a hay ride. The girl in the middle, that's our accessible zip line, which is really incredible. So we can put them in this sit-up strap. And so kids who are either non-ambulatory, who are in wheelchairs, or kids who have hard time climbing upstairs can do the zip line, which is incredible. We do archery, there's horses, there's giant swing, all of the fun activities that we love to do at camp. So Camp Widgewagon is great, very accessible. They are a great camp partner, and we're able to do a lot of activities with them, which I'm very grateful for. Now I'm going to talk about eligibility. So this is usually everyone's question. So our eligibility requirements is that we accept children 6 through 17. We also have to have a diagnosis of intellectual disability in order for our programs to be a good fit. Here are some reasons for ineligibility. I just want to say first that a lot of this is kid by kid basis on the ineligibility. So if you maybe hit some of these or you have questions about this, we would love to just see if this would be a good program or not. So I would say you can contact me after if you have any questions. We can talk with our intake coordinator, but I don't want you guys to get scared or think that you're not necessarily eligible if you have some questions about some of these. So like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you're wondering if your kid would be eligible. But the clear one is we must have an intellectual disability. But here are some reasons for ineligibility. Patterns of aggressive behavior that require restraint or seclusion, inability to stay with a group. That's one that it kind of just depends on how quickly a child can get redirected to the group, if they're safe out at camp situation. If anyone requires one-to-one support throughout the night. We do not accept anyone with possession of contraband materials, if they have a severe medical fragility, or if there's a failure to meet age requirements. So once again, if you guys have any specific questions about your child, I think it would be best if you contacted me directly rather than dropping it in the chat, and we can have a conversation and talk with our intake coordinator. Here's the intake process. I will start by saying we have a very lengthy intake process because we really care about every child that we admit into our program and want to make sure that we can serve them safely. So there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of medical documentation that we will require, and that's just for your trust and our trust so that we can make sure that you guys trust us with your child and that we know everything that could potentially happen while your child is under our care. So here's a little bit of how it goes. So we have the application. So after this, I can send a link for our application. So if you're interested, you would apply through our website. Then you would be in contact with our intake coordinator, McKenna, and she would do an intake phone call. And then after that, thanks, Scott. He went ahead and put the inquiry form in the chat. Thank you so much. So that's the first step, application. McKenna would contact you and set up an intake phone call with you. Then we have round one paperwork, which usually is proof of intellectual disability, just care needs, other things. Then we'll have round two paperwork, which usually is the medical side of things. If your child has seizures, it would be a seizure description form, any sort of medical authorization form, physicals, that kind of thing. And then the next step would be a meet and greet. So we would meet. I'm the only full-time employee here in Tennessee for Jill's House. Of course, we have our client care specialists and our nurses, but they only work during camp time. And so, like I said, we're kind of all over the country. So McKenna, who is our intake coordinator, she lives in DC. So she'll do all of the pre-work. So she'll do application, intake, round one, round two, and then I would step in during meet and greet. So we would meet in a public place, we would talk through, see if our program would be a good fit for your child, and then you would move on to approval. So that's how the intake process works. I like to tell people ahead of time, just so they know that it's not just apply and you come to camp. We just want to make sure that we can serve your child safely and that your child is a good fit for our program. And then here's the next steps. They are to fill out the application if you're interested. And then here's my email on here. once again, my name's Holland Lentz. So holland.lentz@jillshouse.org. And you can email me if you have any specific questions about your child or about anything that would be not appropriate to share in a full chat context. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it open to if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask as a group. And if not, you guys can email them directly. So if you have a question, go ahead and feel free to drop it in the chat. And if we don't have any questions, I really appreciate y'all's time and would love to hear from some of you. I believe that Scott is going to post this and send it to people who weren't able to make it. And so if you would like this recording, you can just let us know if you need to look back on some things as well. Let's see. Okay, great question. So on average, how long does the application process take from start to finish? So it really depends on how fast you're willing to want to go through it. It sounds like a lot of steps, and it is a lot of steps, but if you're proactive about like getting everything in, it can go pretty fast. It just kind of depends on how quickly you'd like to go through it. But our intake coordinator is really on top of things, and we want to get people into our programs and get families respite as soon as possible. Yes, that's a great question. There is a cost. So for a day camp, our cost is $150 for the day. And then for a full weekend, so that's 2 nights overnight, is $250. Some of our families use Tennessee Respite Coalition to have a reimbursement for some of that time. Yeah, so she said, are any grants available? So Tennessee Respite Coalition is a great place to start. A lot of our families receive reimbursement through them. So I can get you that information as well, follow up with you, Kelly. And then a lot of people pay out of pocket, and then some people have some other supports through the ARC or other different local organizations. Great, yes. So what dates do we have available in 2021? So we have an upcoming date in April. That one's full currently. And then we pause in the summer. So this is a great time to start on the intake process because Camp Woodywoggan rents out the whole summer with their own summer camps. And then we're planning to have 3 overnights in the fall time. We haven't released those dates yet, but the months would be August, October, and December. We're just waiting to hear if those are going to be overnights or not. And we're just waiting on a lot of approval from the state and then approval from the campsite to rent out at that time as well. So a lot of moving parts with COVID, but now is a great time to start that intake process since it does take a little bit of time, and then hopefully we'll be into overnights by the time that you would be finished. So the months that would be August, October, and December. Anybody else? Great, that's a great question, Kelly. Why don't you go ahead and reach out to me? I believe that you could be approved on, and he could come. He just has to be 6. So why don't you go ahead and reach out to me, and I can follow up with you for sure. All right, we can go ahead and wrap up. Once again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I really, really appreciate all of y'all's time. And for logging on to Zoom, I know I feel like everyone's got Zoom fatigue right now, so I really appreciate you guys. Also, a big thanks to Scott for passing this all along, all the information and the time that he's put forth to getting the word out. We're very grateful and really appreciate it. So once again, I'll be in touch. Scott or I will be in touch after this with some follow-up information. But thank you again for your time, and we hope to meet some of you guys very soon. Thank you all so much, and I hope that you have a great night.